Hi, if you're new to the podcast, check out sportsradiodetroit.com and go to iTunes. And if you find us at sportsradiodetroit.com, leave us a review. Good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. Actually, we love you have 5-star reviews. 5-star reviews are awesome. Helps us the website. Like our Facebook page, sportsradiodetroit.com. Follow us on Twitter, sportsradiodet. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you can find us. Please, leave us a review. Download us. Let us know what you think. We want to improve each and every time you listen to a podcast, so your feedback is welcome. Podbean map is for free. iTunes, all that stuff, free. Just take 2 seconds. Leave a review. Let us know what you think, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of Tigers SRD here on sportsradiodetroit.com. I'm Roger Castillo, alongside me, Chris Brown. We got a special guest from Bless You Boys, and he's, I don't think you've written anywhere else, right? Is that right?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep, just Bless You Boys.
Just Bless You Boys, okay. Brandon Day was with us. Brandon Day has been tribute. He was just on, well, you were in Ann Arbor on air, yesterday? Was that right?
Yeah, yep, with Michael Spath, yep.
Nice. So, welcome, Brandon, to the podcast, and he's going to just chime with us a little bit about the Tigers. We're going to be doing the weekend series. We're going to be covering the minor leagues and a couple of we'll cover the Goose Gossage. There's an interesting article about saves and how pretty much the modern-day closers are pretty much, as Goose would probably say, pussies, if you will. That's as controversial as I'll get in terms of my language tonight. But Tigers currently playing in Tampa, starting off a 3-game set with the Rays, and Chris and I have talked about the Rays and the pitching, and they get another strong start from a guy I've never heard of. You guys, any insight on this pitcher?
Matt Andriese, he was, he kind of was just a nobody, last year, but I have heard, like in spring, he was looking pretty good. He kind of seemed to have all 4 pitches kind of finally going at once. He doesn't really have anything particularly great to offer, but it just sounds like he kind of has sort of pieced it together. I'm still rather surprised the Tigers haven't put up a little more offense on him today, but, sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens in the Trop, too.
Yeah, no, from watching it, he was really mixing all 4 of his pitches together really well. He wasn't getting himself in trouble with walks. And other than giving up a 7,000-foot home run to Cabrera, he really didn't do anything bad today.
Yeah, that was just Miggy's birthday present. And, other than that, it does look like he's pretty much been painting, both sides of the plate pretty well, dropping the changeup and the curve down low. Interesting, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know a whole lot about him, but, yeah, he's not someone who we should be overpowered by, that's for sure.
He looked like sort of like a swingman last year. Like he started like 20 games and would leave another 10 or 12.
Yeah, Goose Gossage would have liked him.
Yeah, there you go.
I know that when he kind of made the rotation after Matt Moore was traded to the Giants, so he's a guy with career numbers 4.29 ERA, originally drafted by the Padres in the 3rd round. So a guy who really is kind of filling. Yeah, he was kind of jumped in the rotation after Matt Moore left. So that's all that's pretty much on him. So Tigers taking 2 out of 3 from Cleveland, and again, there's this almost kind of pins and needles thing about the Tigers. You look at the 12-2 start in 2015, and I'll start with Chris. 8-4, the numbers, the run differential everyone talks about, the bullpen, which is ad nauseum. And look, sometimes I have to take a break from Twitter because it gets a little annoying. Like, yes, we know the bullpen's bad. We know, we get it. I get it. And it's like you have to take a break from social media sometimes because you get beaten over the head with it. But 8-4, a little bit. Is this what you expected, Chris, overall heading into after Cleveland? Especially because you look at what happened. They beat the 2 best pitchers. Well, maybe Carrasco. I mean, the Cooper start. Verlander was suspected of tipping his pitches. Then you see him next day, or his off day on Monday with the pool, and people had stupid comments about that. But the guy, it's his off day. Who cares what he does? Anyways, I digress about that. But taking 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3 from Cleveland's a strong start considering they didn't win a game in Cleveland until at least August of last year. Does that mean anything to you at all, Chris?
Only in as much as that I think it meant something to the Tigers. I think they really wanted to go out there and prove that, like, they weren't just completely Cleveland's bitch. And I think I think it's nice to, whenever you win a series, and whenever you win a series on the road, it's not nice. But I certainly don't think the Tigers are better than the Indians this year overall as a team. I think we're 1/12 of the way through the season now, something like that. So I wouldn't read too much into it, other than it's nice to win.
Yeah, I thought the Tigers wanted to come out and beat the Indians. They more or less said as much, that it was on their minds. Ian Kinsler said something about that we know the division goes through Cleveland, and he's right. And you saw Miguel Cabrera from the first pitch he took in that series. He was just having none of it. If you're pitching him inside, he was going to have a problem with it. And I don't know if that just goes back specifically to Trevor Bauer plunking everyone on the Tigers in one game last year, it seemed like, but or if that was just an opportunity to kind of fire his guys up and kind of set them up to have to maybe pitch a little bit outside. I was actually surprised that even resulted in a warning for both benches. I thought that was a little ridiculous, but it worked out in his favor because Bauer was pitching him outside a little bit more, or wouldn't come in quite as much, and he got what he wanted there. So it's one series. Cleveland's the better team, certainly on paper. I don't like seeing Michael Brantley coming back looking like a pretty good approximation of Michael Brantley, because that just makes it all the harder. So it's going to be a tough road. I don't know. We can beat them, but I'm not expecting the Tigers to come out and take down the Indians in the Central. I'm still picking the Indians.
Yeah, I still have the Indians too as well. Michael Brantley's numbers since he's come back, he's batting close to 296. I saw something on Baseball Reference. I'm trying to look at the numbers here. Something on Twitter. I had it earlier because I thought it was pointing to point out that his numbers since he's come back. Here it is. 2017 and 40. He's batting 268. /9, 268, 348, and 463. Comparatively speaking to last year around the same time, 43 plate appearances, 231, 279, 282. So Brantley is slowly coming back in form after left arm or left shoulder surgery? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was the left shoulder, but it kind of went on all year, and he rehabbed it and kind of hurt it again, and for a while it actually sounded pretty bleak. So he looks like he's back and ready to go, unfortunately for us.
Yeah, and they still don't have Kipnis.
That's true. They don't even have Kipnis back, and Lindor, just like he's getting better, which I don't like the sound of at all, because Lindor, hell of a player, and he's so likable. God, hate that guy.
That smile.
That's that smile, and you know what? I like him more than I did like in the same kind of villain role, Omar Vizquel. I hated Omar Vizquel because they made it look so easy, but he also had just smugness about him. But Lindor, when you see him on Twitter with the dogs and social media makes him kind of a little more. But the marathon game, so you looked at Friday night's game, the 4-hour game, 3.5-hour game, and almost Sunday was coming back to normal, kind of a 3:15 game. But what was interesting too about the series as well was you looked at Daniel Norris again, another strong start from him. It's his 21st start with less than 3 runs, and he battled through a strike zone. Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, Brandon, about the strike zone. He wasn't able to throw inside, but he still battled through. And again, I'll start with Brandon here about Norris' start. I'm really starting to kind of him and Boyd both showed a lot of, I like to say, cojones, a lot of balls this weekend, going out there and really taking what the umpire gave him and taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'll go with moxie for the PG version, but cojones is probably more accurate because Daniel Norris in particular did not know where his fastball was going. In my opinion, when he's like that, he tends to miss high and he tends to miss away arm side, which for some reason seems to baffle hitters. I mean, it works almost as well for him. He didn't really look to have control of much of his stuff, and he's just hard to square up for some reason for so many hitters. And I don't know if it's just because no one's ever gotten consistent looks at him because he keeps getting injured, or if it's just kind of the short arm action he's got and how quick he is to the plate. I don't exactly know what it is. He's obviously got, a really live arm and a great fastball. But I've seen him dominate, when he looked like he had nothing. And other times, we saw it sort of in August, where he was just striking everyone out and looking like, hey, this guy might make us, put Norris down to number 3 in the rotation. if you're one of those people who wants to number the rotation, and I'm not really a big fan of it. But yeah, so, I've been a big fan of Daniel Norris. I kind of still think he might have better stuff overall than Fulmer does. He just doesn't, Fulmer is just a man out there. He's just such a mature pitcher for his age. And you see some of that in Boyd, I think, too. Boyd seems to really know what he's doing. We're still kind of waiting for him to, kind of dial that slider in as a put-away pitch. But other than that, he mixes things up really well. He changes speeds. That changeup is nasty. And, you just don't see a whole lot of hard hit balls off of him these days. And when Matt Boyd, first came to the Tigers in 2015, I was really thinking he would end up getting converted to a reliever because, he had that high arm slot. He was hanging changeups and curved balls like right, belt high. And, he's managed to turn it around, drive-line baseball for the win, and Rich Doobie for the win, of course.
Chris, what about you? I mean, what'd you see with Norris and you and I have both discussed Boyd at length, but what'd you see this weekend from those starts?
Well, first of all, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I went to speakerphone. I don't know how to turn it off. Brendan summed it up really nicely. It was really interesting that Norris, he could barely throw strikes, but it was like a classic, effectively wild outing, where he was throwing so few strikes that the batters didn't really know what to do with it. And he's got that crossfire delivery, and it's action through the zone. And so when he does throw strikes, they can't do anything with it. So it's like I wondered if it would be better for him to throw more strikes or if he's best the way he is right now. If he throws more strikes, you're looking at a guy probably more like a Danny Duffy is right now, and a guy who could work more innings. But he's been awfully effective of the way he's pitching. So I don't know what you do with it.
Yeah, they're still kind of I don't know if he's gone over 100 pitches in an outing more than maybe once or twice. So, that may be something where we can see him sort of stretch it out. But yeah, you would like a little bit more efficiency at least, but it's hard to argue so far with the results for sure.
Yeah, he pitched, was it Friday? He did pitch just over 100 pitches, just pitched 101 pitches. But it was 6 innings though. So you'd like to see him go a little further, especially what happened later on in that game where you see, well, leads to our point later on with the closer rule. But two Indians that I really look out for this year. One guy that I'm really to see the build on from last year's Jose Ramirez, and Jose Ramirez is I think going to be the next Tiger killer, if you will. Here's a guy who last year really kind of came to his own, and the Indians reward him with a contract, and he's continuing to rake. He's batting .270, and Chris, I think Ramirez is a guy who's here to stay, and Yanni Diaz, the Cuban, who is up right now and who's going to probably go back down once Kipnis comes back. But he's a guy who I think has a bright future in the league. He's batting .250 right now. He's showing some good defense, but I like that guy a lot. Not because he's Cuban, because that's showing him some bias, of course, but that's a kid who is a good utility guy for the Indians.
Yeah, and Diaz has sort of a reputation for making hard contact. So, and he looked like he was a solid third baseman. I only saw him for those couple of games, but that's just that's the difference. The Indians have a solid system even after trading away some guys last year, and guys like Diaz can really be helpful in a season like this where you lose a starter for 3-4 weeks or a month. He can come up and at least be usable. And yeah, Jose Ramirez is. I think you're right. He's one of those guys who's not going to put up eye-popping numbers, but he doesn't walk a lot. He doesn't strike out a lot. He will, occasionally hit a bomb, and and he's just going to be an annoying type of hitter. I think, like an old school Twins hitter.
Yeah,
in the 2000s.
Kent Herbeck, for example, comes to mind.
No.
Yeah, he just seems like a tough guy to get out when you really need him to get out. He just seems to have a little bit of a knack for shortening it up and driving the ball the other way. And if you try to pitch him inside, as he showed, he's got some pop too. So, yeah, another win for the Indians there.
Yeah, and that goatee has to go though. I'm sorry, that goatee was bad. That was bad show by Ramirez there. But nonetheless, the Tigers take 2 out of 3. And by the way, the Austin Jackson. The beard, I'm sorry, he looked like Samuel L. Jackson in the Chappelle skit. I couldn't help it.
Pretty scruffy looking, yeah.
Yeah, because I when he saw the came in bat, it took me a second because I was watching the game. I was doing something else at the same time. I'm like, wait, that's Austin. I couldn't. It took me a second to realize that was Austin Jackson. So
I was doing a recap, and I mistook him for Abraham Almonte twice, even though I knew Abraham Almonte was not in the lineup that day. I just kept thinking.
And then over the weekend too, the other part of the course was the the hello and goodbye of William Cuevas, who was up for a minute and promptly. And Chris, did you compare him to Eddie Bonine? Is that correct?
Yeah, I did in terms of stuff. Oh, Eddie Bonine without the knuckleball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. He's a
Oh,
guy
I
who
like that.
tops out at like 89 or 90, and has two other pitches, but neither of them are. I mean, none of his pitches were very good, and that was put on display pretty quickly. Although I have to admit, like I think I said, he was the one free agent ad in the offseason that I thought might be useful, but judging by his performance there, not so much.
And then, go ahead, Brandon. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it's just another one of those moments when you realize just how fragile the Tigers situation is as far as starting pitching, goes. I really like our front five, and then, you look down at Toledo and just think like, boy, you guys better stay healthy or we're in real trouble.
Yeah, I mean, the next stop up was Warwick Suppold, who was effective last year before he got injured, but K-Rod came out today and defended the bullpen and thought that, it was kind of unfair for the bullpen to get as beat up as it or has been attacked, if you will, but the proof is in the pudding, if you will. There's nothing to you look at. Of course, I mean, there's some people deducting without the ERAs of Cuevas and Sanchez. The bullpen is not that bad, but as Chris jokingly said earlier, and Colorado did get his first strikeout of the year in the bullpen. But I mean, K-Rod was saying that it's too early to push the panic button. But gentlemen, I'll start here with Brandon. There's still not a lot of swings and misses in this bullpen. And, look at Justin Wilson, who on Sunday was uncharacteristic. And I saw this. He was actually pounding the strike zone. He wasn't really kind of painting. He was going inside. K-Rod saying the frustration. And this was his quote. He said, "We had a rough patch. This is only, 12 games. Obviously, I understand the frustration when the bullpen does its job done. If it's too early, we still have 150 games to play." End quote. But then again, I say to you, K-Rod, it's been 2 years, but I digress. But Brandon, it is something to note that this bullpen still, it's not Brad Allison's fault. It's not, it is what it is. But is there anything right now, short-term wise, that can be done immediately? I mean, is there any strategy or anything? And you wrote a really good piece about K-Rod too, as well, with his velocity dropping his fastball, his changeup. I mean, he had a 12-6 going on Sunday, or excuse me, was it Sunday? It was Sunday he came out there. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, there's still a cause of concern.
Yeah, from K-Rod's perspective, I understand. You can't push the panic button this early. It's just that with the Tigers bullpen, the panic button is always on. It's been a long time since the panic button was ever turned off for any substantial length of time. So, yeah, I don't really there's nothing they can do right at the moment. Short of maybe bringing up Blaine Hardy and giving him a little bit of a whirl. There's a couple of decent guys, but the road still kind of goes through Joe Jimenez and people go back and forth between, expecting way too much from Joe Jimenez. And then I kind of still think the Tigers are slow playing Joe Jimenez a little bit too much and babying him a little bit, at least in their comments, and the way they discuss it. So, hopefully Joe Jimenez gets his shot and can help out. But, you can't expect him to come in. And, we've talked about this already, off the show that, Brad Ausmus, like everybody else, likes his inning rolls, and he's not going to slot Joe Jimenez right into the eighth inning to protect, close leads. That's not going to happen. So, you just hope, he can come in and, and get an opportunity to work his way up. And other than that, it's the Wilsons, and, you hope Shane Green can, at least find it for some stretches. You looked at his peripherals last year, and it actually looks like, Shane Green had a pretty good season, but we all know it was a really, really up and down roller coaster. And you factor in the fact that he still experiences the numbness in his fingers from time to time, at least. Maybe it's worse in cold weather. Maybe that's something that'll be alleviated when it gets a little warmer out. But yeah, that's not something you really want to hang your hat on either. And you've got three pretty young starters in there who you can't expect all of them to go 200 innings even if they're healthy. They're going to need help along the way, and you can take this. People have different opinions about whether the Tigers window or whatever is about to just slam shut, but this does look like pretty much their last best opportunity, where you've got some of the younger players with enough experience to actually be dependable at this point, whether that's Nick Castellanos or the three starters we've talked about. And you've still got, Miguel Cabrera in pretty close to vintage form, and the same with Ian Kinsler and Justin Verlander. This is really the go year. And, they've already shed, a ton of payroll in cutting Mark Lowe and Mike Pelfrey. They're probably going to have to do that with Anibal Sanchez, even though they're going to drag it out until we're all just screaming at them. And at some point, they're going to have to decide whether or not they're willing to trade somebody in the farm system. And there aren't very many guys that you're going to be able to trade to get anybody good. And yeah, that's going to be the test for Al Avila this year. I hope that's the test, because if it isn't the test, then we're going to be selling. So.
What about you, Chris? I mean, you explained to everybody. You kind of calmed some fires out there. Some people who were reacting over, I think, a little bit overreact. I mean, I admit that was kind of, until you explained a little bit about Jimenez, and I understood why. I mean, he was a guy. He's a short reliever. He only can go 1-2 innings. They had to get a long reliever up here, but, and we've talked about this in the last podcast too. But is there anything that you can see right now? We looked at the numbers in Toledo, and there's really nothing outstanding there as well. But there's really, it's kind of almost. I mean, yeah, we can talk ad nauseum about this, and it's the same solutions. You can plug in the same guys. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing over and over again. But what say you, Chris? I mean, it was, even if Jimenez was up here right now, you're looking at the Wilsons and Jimenez, but you're still looking at K-Rod, which is kind of still not a sure thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And Brandon said earlier that K-Rod's an interesting case where he's actually a closer who you probably wouldn't want working your most high leverage innings. He's kind of the opposite of a super reliever, where he doesn't have the stuff that you want to get the toughest outs in the game, but he's got the so-called closer mentality, which some people consider a myth, but I'm inclined to believe it a little bit, since there have been so many guys who just completely melt down when they get the closer role. But yeah, so K-Rod is an issue. I don't think he's the biggest issue right now. I think bullpen depth is the biggest issue. And I think I was saying earlier to you guys, it's basically like Austin says, his A team in the bullpen and his B team. And right now the A team are the two Wilsons and K-Rod. And an ideal game for him would be the starter goes 6 solid innings, and those 3 guys work to 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then the B team is everybody else: Kyle Ryan, Shane Green, and Anibal Sanchez right now. And they need to get a couple more guys in that A team. I do think Jimenez will be an option eventually. I think people might be expecting a little bit too much of him. And like Brandon was saying, Ausmus isn't even going to use him that way immediately anyway. But this is what we knew was coming. We knew that Shane Green and Bruce Rondon and Justin Wilson even were pretty volatile last year. And we've seen most of that again. So solutions are going to be hard to come by. I do think it is going to take at least one trade. And it'll probably involve moving somebody that we don't really want them to move. But what else are you going to do? You might have to trade a Tyler Alexander.
Yeah.
Yeah, please no. I've been on the Ty Alexander train for the last 3 years, but I mean it would probably be necessary, because the Tigers do have something that, if you look right now, especially in the lower, you look at right now, Funkhauser and even why am I drawing a blank? Who's pitching Lakeland right now?
Burroughs.
Yeah, Burroughs is pitching really well. It could make Ty Alexander expendable. So the Tigers do have some, dare I say, some starting depth. And even the names right now, Brian Garcia, and they have some guys in the bullpen in West Michigan that could provide some trade. So they could do that right now. I mean, they could trade a Tyler Alexander for a bullpen guy to fill a spot. I mean, I just don't want them to completely empty out the farm system for one guy. I mean, if they trade a couple guys, fine. In my opinion, the Tigers are making progress right now in terms of bullpen help right now. Tigers don't have any infield prospects, and we can go. We'll talk about that a little later. And I saw a tweet today that made me laugh about the oldest farm system. But again, there's a lot of things that go. Yeah, that was great. But there's a lot of things to it. So, but speaking of relievers, we'll lead into my next segueing into the goose egg, and it's an interesting article, and I don't know who found it. One of us found it. I can't remember who found it. But at any rate, it was in the 538, which is what would you guys consider this? This is more the ESPN non-bullshit section, where it's more like going to actual good, like in-depth articles. Is that that the because I feel sometimes ESPN is more like a TS or the more of a celebrities who's banking.
TMZ.
Yeah, TMZ. Thank you. Yeah, it's becoming more of that now. But this is a really good article from ESPN, which kind of surprises me.
It's like Economist Unleashed, and actually like talking about sports. So you actually do get numbers and analysis. Yeah, it's pretty good site generally.
Yeah, and this is good stuff right here. And this talks about goose eggs because Goose Gossage is not a big fan of Moneyball. He's not a big fan of stats, and he's a big fan. Apparently, hates nerds. So if I was to say, Goose Gossage essentially is the ogre before he becomes a nerd in Revenge of the Nerds. He is that guy. Yeah. So he talks about he was talking about closers, including Rivera, arguing that they're not used for the right situations, and they've earned saves cheaply. And the quote is, and here's the quote: "I like to see these guys come in more jams and tighter situations for the game. In the seventh, eighth, or ninth innings, I don't think you're utilizing these guys to the maximum efficiency and benefit your club." Goosage said. "This is not a knock against Mo Rivera," he continued later, "but I'd like to know how many most saves are off one inning or 3-run lead. If anybody in that effing bullpen can't save a 3-run lead for one inning, they shouldn't be in the big leagues." So he is the all-time goose egg. So the goose eggs, how that works is anybody who threw three or was it two or three innings at a time came with runners on base. Is that correct? Is that how it worked? Let's see.
Yeah, something like that. And whether or not there's if it's a tie game or you're ahead by 1 or 2 runs, I think he factored in there.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, that's right. And the save came
so high leverage, yeah.
Yeah, high leverage, yeah. By the way, the save came in. Wow, I did not know the save came in 1969. Wow. I was kind of sure when. I
didn't know that either.
Yeah, I did not know that either. And leave it to a baseball writer to come throw it in there too as well. So what was interesting was some of the goose egg leaders was Raleigh Fingers, who was a guy who built these relievers threw 130, 140 innings, which is kind of, if you think about it, unheard of. And guys that K-Rod's up there with 430 goose eggs, if you will. Mike Marshall. Do you guys remember how many appearances Mike Marshall made when he won the Cy Young?
He made like 102 or something like that.
Yeah.
Didn't he? It was like
or something. Sounds right. Like, yeah, well over half the games. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact: did you guys know that he was a former Tiger?
I did know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was also a Michigan State. He was from Adrian, Michigan, and went to Michigan State.
He's like the pitch doctor guy, isn't he? He's like a PhD in kinesiology and pitching motion.
Yeah. Trying to figure out the optimum mechanics and avoid arm injuries. Yeah, he's written a few papers, I think, on that.
106 games. He appeared in 106 games in 1974.
Wow.
Pitched 208 innings, and he did not start a single game, folks. That's Marshall. Insane. That's insane.
That's a real man right there.
That's a real reliever right there, and that guy ranks in terms of relievers too, and he only had. Let's see how many saves. He only had 21 saves. 21 saves. So 143 strikeouts to 280 innings pitched. I'm always fascinated by that. But anyways, the reason why I thought this article was interesting too is there, in terms of closers that are up there too. There was a Jose Mesa reference too, but we're talking about bullpens, we're talking about closers, and some of the other defining goose eggs. And so here it is: a relief pitcher that records a goose egg for each inning is which it's the 7th inning or later. At the time a pitcher faces the first batter of the inning, his team is up no more than 2 runs, or the score is tied, or the tying runs on base or at bat. 3, no runs earned or unearned or changed to the pitcher in the inning, and no inherited runs scored while the pitcher is in the game. And the pitcher either records 3 outs or the pitch records at least 1 out, and the number of outs recorded plus inherited runners total at least 3. So, essentially, yeah, it's in, these guys are pitchers who, and there's another former Tiger up there as well. John Hiller, former Tiger, who was out there quite a bit, and he was a single goose egg leader in 1974. Marshall was in 73. So, there's a former Tiger up there too as well. Aurelio Lopez was in that list too as well. Former Aquinas graduate, South Downriver graduate, Paul Ostemacher, 1991, former Cub, was from the area too as well. But anyways, the reason why I bring this up is it's fascinating to me because, gentlemen, with closers the way they are, and bullpen, and Tigers not having a bullpen, and you we'll post the article when we post the podcast tomorrow, because it goes into more depth stuff that I really, to be honest with you, just. I know, Chris, it has a lot of numbers in there, so you can probably you're a numbers guy. So, but it has a lot of good numbers in there. But in terms of relievers, would you guys like? I mean, here's a hypothetical question: do you think closers could go 2 innings these days? I'll start with Brandon. Is it possible that the way bullpens are now, are they way too constructed just because of how much money is involved and that arms couldn't realistically go 2 innings, or is the game just set up for really one inning and they're done?
I mean, yeah, I do think they could pitch, multiple innings, or more in a situation. To me, the ideal is more you would bring in your best reliever when, say your middle reliever or your starter, is actually in trouble, and have that guy get you out of that trouble, and then, pitch another inning and see how he goes after that, and just kind of ride him. Is how I would look at it. This article kind of feels a little bit like, one of those things where we're rediscovering the wheel here a little bit, because you saw the way Terry Francona used Andrew Miller last year. Obviously, a lot was made about that. Kenley Jansen, Aroldis Chapman, although Madden maybe didn't use him optimally in the postseason exactly, but you're seeing teams, I think, starting to realize that wasting your best reliever just to pitch 9th innings with 2 and 3 run leads, it just is kind of a waste of maybe one of your most valuable assets at this point. So it does feel like we're coming back around to that. It in another way though, the goose egg is just another one where you kind of take semi-arbitrary stats here. Like, okay, it should be this many innings, or the lead here has to be this many runs. One way or the other, someone's not going to be happy with it. Pitchers of the 70s and 80s are always ready for any opportunity to tell you that pitchers of today are soft and overpaid and just whiners. For all the emphasis on taking care of pitchers' arms and in relievers and making sure they don't go too deep into games, it hasn't resulted in guys being notably more healthy or having, that much, maybe some closers have had longer careers than they would have back in the day, but, guys still get injured. We're just better at fixing it is more the way it goes. And yeah, obviously money does have something to do with it. Saves are valued now. And once you're a closer, you've kind of got a cash cow there, and your manager knows it and, wants to kind of work with you on that front. We saw in arbitration this offseason, Dylan Betances, who's, arguably one of the top 5 relievers in the league. Maybe that's not even arguable. But, he got a lot less than he would have if he'd been racking up saves all this time. And those are the kind of things that can really screw the works up as far as, using pitchers optimally. So I do think guys could go multiple innings. I tend to think that once you're warmed up, until you actually start to feel some fatigue, it's probably not that much different to throw 15 pitches than to throw 30. Maybe you would end up wanting to give guys a little more rest here or there, or have to be a little more careful with it at first. But yeah, I do think it's something that could happen. I don't know that the Tigers really have anyone that that sets up real well to be used this way. Justin Wilson had elbow trouble last year and is the kind of guy who goes out there and just throws, full power gas at 97, 98 at you. I don't know, how well he would do in a role like that, and I wouldn't want to see anybody else, trying it. But the thing about Francisco Rodriguez, beyond what Chris said, is that his whole style of pitching is set up to face hitters who have to make something happen, because he doesn't want to throw it in the zone at all. And when he does, he's in danger of getting clobbered. So, there is something to that, that position of having the hitter have to make something happen and not having another inning or two to be a little more patient with. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's something to this. Obviously, none of us like the save. I mean, the save is kind of ridiculous. A lot of fantasy leagues have gone to saves and holds. Sometimes holds are just as ridiculous. It's just a way of, trying to find a way to value relievers in a meaningful way. And I think it's still something that's a work in progress in baseball right now.
What say you, Chris?
Well, yeah, I think Brandon, hit home on just about every point there. The central conceit of that argument or that article was basically that managers aren't using who's supposed to be their best reliever. They're not using their best reliever in the most optimal situations. They're using them when they can get the stat of a save, which is really very silly. And it's true. In the save, for as much grief as wins and losses get, the save is even more ridiculous, really, when you think about it. When you can get a save for pitching the final 3 runs of an inning, or 3 innings of a game, no matter what the score is. A couple years ago, some guy got a save in like a 28-2 game. And that's when the people have tried to fix this before. Fangraphs has the shutdowns and meltdowns thing, which I'm sure I've talked about on this show before.
Yeah, you have. Yep. But
just the recap, basically, you get a shutdown if you're a relief pitcher and you improve your team's chances of winning by 6% or more, and you get a meltdown if you decrease your team's chances of winning by 6% or more. It's a nice approximation of what we want saves to do. The problem there is it's not terribly fan friendly to say, hey, what's the percentage of this? I mean, if you get some baseball fans and they're into that sort of thing, it could be cool. But I don't know. Yeah, it really is. I do think we may see a return to the old school fireman, like your Willie Hernandez's and stuff like that. But it's kind of going to require some special situations, like in Cleveland. If they don't have Cody Allen, I don't know if they use Andrew Miller that way. I think they use him as their closer, and he's basically their 9th inning guy. So you really need to have. And Betances was another one, a great example. And boy, did the Yankees screw him over! And boy, in the arbitration, they were dicks.
They won the arbitration, and then they still blew him up over it. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, yikes. But so you really need, if you're going to have that guy, you really need another solid closer on the roster. And yeah, as we discussed with the Tigers, there's nobody's really there. I guess the one guy who you might use is Alex Wilson, but he doesn't have the sort of stuff where you would, expect him to just be coming and be lights out for multiple innings. He's just got a rubber arm.
Yeah, I got to agree there. I'm a big fan of Alex Wilson. I like him, but yeah, it's hard to picture him, as some kind of high leverage multi innings, just like jack of all trades type of guy. It was nice to see him get some strikeouts over the weekend. The cutter seems to be cutting nicely at the moment, but we'll see if that holds up.
And that was a good question. And the question, by the way, was submitted by Paul Sebastian Oz, too, at Twitter, about who would be the Tigers reliever. And I would agree with Wilson. I think he would be the guy who would fit that. If I think of classic Tigers, though, that in terms of all-time, if I think about Tigers I've seen the last 10, 15 years that the reliever-wise, I would fit that bill, though. If I could, have a reliever, it's hard to think of one, really, because if you think about the relievers that have been just, I mean,
Drew Smiley.
Drew Smiley's up there. I would,
Good call.
Who?
I just said good call.
Yeah, good call. That's Smiley's up there, but I honestly, it was growing up. When you saw Lopez come in, and I was a kid. I mean, that was my first favorite Tiger. Was Aurelio Lopez. Watching him come in, you knew it was lights out. I mean, he was such an effective left-hander, such a screw. He had such a great screwball. And the irony was he was part of that. The thing about Lopez too was, I'm trying to think of another outside of I'm trying to think of another one more recent than that. But Lopez, I'm glad that Lopez was on that list because he was my favorite reliever growing up. Him and Willie Hernandez, when those guys were effective on that team. But what I think about Lopez is that he was part of in terms of how Sparky used them too. I mean, he went out there, through 100 innings. I mean, he was a guy that could go out there and do anything. He could go out there and if needed to, he never made spot starts, but he had that go pitch 4 or 5 innings, and if a reliever or a starter did bad, and he was just lifetime ERA at 3.56, really good reliever, and just not talked about to me enough, at least in my opinion. But I think go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Willie Hernandez really did get all the press. I'm exactly the right age for that. I'm 42, so I was 10 in 1984, and they were equally exceptional to watch. But Willie kind of got all the press, of course, so which was well deserved. Yeah, I mean he did. And Chris, would you say that's fair that he got all the press? And Lopez did not.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's the guy, the big time closer who always who gets the press. And that's not to say I think Lopez closed almost probably 20 games or whatever. But yeah. I mean I was pretty young. I vaguely remember the '84, but even then I remember Willie Hernandez being the talk of the town.
I just remember the reason why I remember Lopez more importantly. It was my dad's favorite Tiger. I mean, I was 5 years old. In terms of when I went to my first Tigers game was '85. In '84, I was 3 or 4 years old. But we had my dad, he recorded all the games. That was his big thing. And so, reading the Bless You Boys book and reading just remember vividly. And also, he was a big fan of this restaurant Armando's, and that's where he was familiar. He was really a big fan of there, and he was constantly in there all the time. And I got to meet him a few times. So that's more of a personal thing for me on that regard.
Nice.
But so yeah. But anytime I watched him pitch, even towards even in his Houston days, I mean, he was a big part of that Houston bullpen in '86. The loss to the Mets. He was still effective in that. And I mean, I was watching baseball, wee high, but at any rate, yeah, that was one him, and I would have to say probably Zamaya. I think Zamaya would have fit that role too. I think Zamaya had a 2-inning makeup too because he was a starter in the minors on his way up, and had he not playing Rockstar or whatever the hell he was doing to injure his shoulder, I think he could have fit that. Makeup.
Yeah, it's painful to think about, but yeah, I think he might have been able to pull that off as well, at least for a while.
So, in terms of modern Tigers, I think we'd all agree that Alex Wilson would fit that bill right now. At any rate, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to do the review of the Tigers minor league system of the week as Erie and Toledo in first place, but there's a reason why. We'll get to that reason why. Also, we'll get to the Tigers mailboxes. We have a couple questions. Obscure Tigers of the week, as we have a few of them, which I think this is a new thing that's going to stick, Chris. I think this is something that's going to stick. As somebody decided to bust out some ones from 5 or 6 years ago. We'll be back much more here on Tigers SRD on SportsRadioDetroit.com. We'll be back after this.
I'm Dave, the host of Over Under Fair. Listen in as me and my crew of podcasting misfits talk out all sorts of topics underneath the pop cultural umbrella. Movies, music, TV shows, video games, sports, social media, dining habits. There's nothing we won't cover in our unending quest to label all things as either overrated, underrated, or fairly rated. New episodes post every other week, presented to you by SportsRadioDetroit.com. That's Over Under Fair, the final word in pop culture relevance.
And also, too, we react on her because she had a second job working at Bob Evans. So people would see her on Sunday mornings working at Bob Evans.
You're a dick.
I was a dick. No. And in seventh grade, I got busted for bringing a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
That's the worst age to be a teacher because people are going through puberty.
Yeah.
They got all this rage that they don't even know
Yeah,
about.
not at all. Either
Kids
before
are,
or after.
Humping
That's
their
it.
desk because they get their first hard on. You know what I mean? That's like a bad age.
It
Oh
is.
my goodness.
SRD Roadshow every Saturday from 10 to noon on CRBRadio.com and catch the podcast at SportsRadioDetroit.com. All right, we're back here on Tigers SRD and SportsRadioDetroit.com, and Chris is going to do the Tigers minor league report as we go over the minor leagues. And what's interesting is that you look at Toledo, Erie in first place for the first time. It's early on, and we know that the Seawolves are taking pride, and they're now the official British team, minor league team. They're the official representative of the UK for a podcast that's on SoundCloud, Bat Flips. It's a British podcast. It does British baseball. There's two guys over there in Britain that do a really good job with the podcast. They have a lot of guys over there on there. But the Erie Seawolves are now the official British minor league baseball affiliate. So there you go. And the Seawolves even retweeted the guys and congratulated them. So they're first place in Erie, but there's a reason why, Chris. So take it away. We'll start with the Mud Hens.
Well, yeah, the Mud Hens, they went, I think they went 6-1 last week, which was, pretty damn good. They right now they're getting solid offensive contributions and good starting pitching and good bullpen. I mean, everything you need right now. But the caveat is, of course, that everybody on the team is like 32. They're all these, aging veterans. Like the best weeks last week were from Jim Meducci, who spent the last 2 years in Korea, I think. In Efren Navarro, who is just a career minor leaguer. We saw him in spring training a lot. He couldn't make contact, but he hit 2 homers in a game last week. and then there's John Hicks has been tearing the cover off the ball. And he's a fringe prospect, but yeah, I guess there's more names that we know that are out there pitching. Like Blaine Hardy, I think picked up 2 wins on the week somehow just by pitching in relief. And it would not shock me if by the time this podcast is published, that Blaine Hardy is on his way back to Detroit. Or I guess Tampa, as it were. But yeah, so they're playing well. It's for the Toledo fans, I'm sure it's nice to have a winner. As prospect watchers, it doesn't mean much of anything. You've got Joe Jimenez down there right now. And then, guys we've seen, Buck Farmer, Rondon. So, but, hooray for first place. Yeah, and down in Erie, there are more prospects, and right now they're really just kind of beating people by outscoring them. And the pitching was really bad in Erie last year, and it's not all that great again this year. They do have Tyler Alexander, who's we talked about earlier, and Artie Lewicki is a solid starter, could be a back end guy. But right now, yeah, they're beating people by Kristen Stewart and Mike Gerber knocking in runs all over the place. So. That's it's nice to see. They're still, as I think you mentioned in the tweet earlier. I don't know if you want to say it, Roger. If you want me to say it,
go for it, Chris. I'll let you have the honors on this one.
Yeah, was it wasn't Ben Badler? Who I forgot who it was. But it was one of the guys.
I'll pull it up right now. Let me pull it up. I'll let you go ahead and let's see. I retweeted earlier.
Well, it was one of the guys from Baseball America, and he was obviously looking at the average age of every team in the minor leagues.
Yeah, it was Mark Eddy, I think, right?
Matt Eddy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Basically, the idea being that the Tigers have the oldest team in AAA, AA, Single A, and High A. All 4 of their full season affiliates are the oldest average age, which is generally not good. You want to be younger and good, but hey, it is what it is. That I was looking at West Michigan. I don't think they have a teenager on their team, which has got to be the first time in 10 years or so. But yeah, if we continue with the minor leagues, the opposite end of the spectrum, down in A-ball, the Flying Tigers, Lakeland, they lost their first 5 games of the week, and it stretched it to a 6-game losing streak actually. And down there, it was just they left like 12 men on base every game. They were just not. They were getting cluster locked all over the place. And then down in West Michigan, they continue to struggle to score. Their pitching's been solid, but they can't push across a lot of runs. It's a lineup that doesn't really, doesn't make you get all excited. There are only a couple fringe prospects in there. Well, there are a couple decent prospects in there, but they're going to struggle to score all year long, I think, which was kind of the case back in 2014 as well. Or let's see, 2015. The first half of the year they struggled, and then they had a draft where they got Kristen Stewart and Kate Savick and A.J. Simcox, and those 3 guys came up in the second half of the season. And the way the low A works, you make the playoffs based on your first half record or your second half record. It's not the cumulative. So they've got good enough pitching down there that if they get some help from the draft this year, they might be able to make a playoff run. But I'm not expecting it in the first half of the season.
And so, really, I mean, in terms of age, old age, it's just because really the reason why they were going after so many minor league free agents last year because of the lack of depth, correct?
Yeah, the lack of legitimate prospects. They, and some of these guys they went after last year, like 26, 27, 28, they're down in A-ball. They've got catcher. They had a catcher down in A-ball who was near like 30 years old. It's not it's not what you want. And I mean, they could put other bodies there, but I know we've had a change apparently in the development style from Dave Dombrowski to Al Avila. I was just looking earlier. We had one question from Robert James about. He was asking me, what did he say? He asked us, among other things, he asked us if there were any surprises in the minors. And the main surprise to me was that Matt Manning, their first-round pick last year, is not in full season ball. It's a top 10 pick. It doesn't necessarily mean bad things, but I was looking at the history of top 10 picks, high school pitchers, going back 15, 20 years, and the only two I could find that didn't start their first full season in a full season league are Matt Manning and Braxton Garrett, who was also drafted last year by the Marlins. And I don't know exactly what's going on with him because he was supposed to be really polished, so there might be some injury there, but it's just not something you see very often, so it's a little bit surprising. Doesn't mean anything. He could be in West Michigan in another month. Maybe they're just trying to watch his innings. But yeah, I mean, he would have been the youngest player on the team and probably the most exciting, the highest ranked prospect, and he's just in extended spring training now. So they appear to be really taking their time developing guys now, which is a huge departure from what it was before. I was, when I was doing that research, I saw Jacob Turner. He was in high A halfway through his first full season, and of course Rick Porcello went straight to high A. So
yeah,
Dombrowski used to just push these guys through, and Avila's taking it.
Get him on the showroom floor as fast as possible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes of this, if anything. If more time with the development staff helps, or if the development staff isn't all that good.
Yeah, one thing I was going to chip in on Manning is that I talked to him maybe this probably about 2 months ago, and the way he made it sound is that they really were just kind of like just having him just work on his conditioning, and they really wanted to build him up and just keep cleaning up his mechanics and keep his innings down. It sounded like was the plan for this year. So I still thought he'd get an assignment by now as well, but yeah, they really seem to be kind of focused on that. And I know he didn't pitch very much even in high school. I think he only pitched 2 seasons in high school, so he's pretty raw. Hasn't thrown hard that often, that much compared to most of those guys. So I don't know. I guess we'll see if that's wisdom or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. He is sort of an unusual prospect in that he was such a two-sport guy to the point where baseball wasn't even his main thing, I think, until he was a junior. Yeah. So and I've read that he was throwing a knuckle curve, and they've tried to scrap that and give him a more traditional curve, and so there's plenty of stuff to work on. It's just unusual. Is like I said, not necessarily bad, just unusual.
Yeah.
There's the other question too that came. There's a couple of questions that came in from Robert. Had a couple. Why isn't Sanchez released yet? How does Jacoby Jones' swing look? Which we can answer that question simply. It does not look good after today. But he continues to swing away. Surprises in the minors, which Chris answered a little bit. I have one, and I'm not sure, Brendan, if you have one, let me know. And is Gabe Quintana good? And then let me explain who Gabriel Quintana is. He is a guy who is in Double-A. He's the third baseman, 24 years old, out of the Dominican Republic. And so, Chris, if you can help me fill the blanks, he is a guy who was originally drafted by San Diego, and the Tigers signed to a minor league contract. Originally signed to Toledo, and then they put him in Double-A. Is he more of a fringe prospect? I'm not sure if he's. This is where I need your help, Chris. Is he a prospect, or is he classified as just a minor league free agent?
He was a legitimate prospect a few years ago. Yeah, the Padres signed him when he was 16, and he's got a couple above average tools. He's got above average raw power and his above average throwing arm from third base. But the thing that's bothered him his whole career is plate discipline. He swings at everything, and he doesn't walk. I don't think he's ever walked more than 20 times in a season as a pro. Now, he was able to tap into the power a little bit last year. I think he hit 20 bombs for the first time. So there could be something there. You know, we've seen guys develop late, particularly power hitters, but I wouldn't call him a good prospect.
In terms of, in Texas, he hit 20 home runs in Texas League, and correct me if I'm wrong, Texas League is kind of not exactly a free swinging league, is it? I mean, there's not a lot of power down there, is there?
Well, it depends. I think there are a couple places in the Texas League where where the ball kind of jumps, but it is also you're playing in Texas in the summer, so it could be pretty draining, I would think.
All right.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy. It's sort of like a Jeffrey Marte situation where there's a chance he could be a useful piece, but I wouldn't expect anything special from him.
Gotcha. Brandon, do you have any surprises down there?
Chris is by far the better one to ask. If I have any, it's probably because I heard Chris talk about them.
All right. Then in terms of why Sanchez is released, Brandon, what's your theory behind this? This was a question that unfortunately was going to come up at some point because it's been talked about ad nauseum, but why has he been released? As Robert James wants to know. At Confusion Rain, by the way. Confusion_Rain on Twitter.
Oh, Robert James, you know the answer. It's $16.8 million plus $5 million next year. I mean and that's not something that you can ignore. That's not something a team can ignore. But you do have to look at the fact that we're talking about it. He looked horrific in spring training. As bad as he's looked most of the past two seasons, and supposedly changed his arm slot a little bit. I didn't really see particularly much difference, but he dominated those last three starts in spring training, and that was enough to salvage him, at least for the time being. It's just a question of I don't know how long they can this can go on. He's got to come out and at least have a couple of outings where he isn't just a complete gas can, I would think. But they're going to give him some time. I mean, this team stashed Mark Lowe at the back of that bullpen, after the first month of the season, and kept him there the whole time. And they managed, for the most part, to keep him from hurting the team that way as well. So I don't know what to tell you, Robert James. It's gonna be tough to get old Sanchi out of there anytime soon. I don't know. Maybe there's some, and the other thing is too, like we've said before, there's a couple guys who you wouldn't mind coming up and spot starting from Toledo. But, you kind of like to get Jordan Zimmerman, another month into the season before you completely give up what might be your last option as a credible semi-regular major league starter, even though he doesn't seem like that to me at all at this point either. So, we're just going to have to hang in there. I don't think it's going to be, if the Tigers had, three good relievers I wanted to bring up, it would be a bigger problem. I'm just hoping they can find six useful guys, and, Sanchez can go out there, every time Justin Verlander faces the Indians and gets murdered.
Yeah, they don't really have technically, quote unquote, have a sixth starter right now. So it's kind of a rough go about it right now, especially if a starter does go down. You look down at AAA and it's like, well, is Chad Bell gonna? God, I hate to say this cliche. Is he gonna answer the bell? God, that was bad. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. You know what? No, screw it. I'm not sorry. That was good. That was gold. They don't really have it, but it's. The money is a big holdup too as well, but then is there a trading partner out there? Absolutely not. No one's gonna take his contract. No one's gonna take this guy's at all. So, but yeah, Robert. Yeah, sorry, man. It's not they're just gonna let all this money cut loose. As much as Tigers are sitting with the second highest payroll in the league and a lot of it's gonna be debt. A lot of it's debt money. So
a lot of it's luxury taxed as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to. Yeah. So, at any rate, my surprise Tiger, though, I do wanted to mention one is not so much a surprise, Chris. I know you're gonna sit there and tell me why is this a surprise, but Jose Alcantar.
Azokar?
Yeah, Ozokar. Only reason why is because he's off to a really fast start. He's 20, and he's already hitting 271. He's got two home runs already down in Lakeland. He's showing he is got some play discipline issues right now. I mean, he's got 10 strikeouts and 55 at bats, but still, he hasn't walked at all. But he is showing some surprise. I mean, in terms of where he's hitting, he's got a double and a triple already. But he's already hitting pretty well in Lakeland, and it's off to a good start. He kind of started a little slow, but he's been heating up, and I'm surprised how well he's starting right now, based off his injuries, and I really think that the future's bright for this guy.
Yeah, I suppose I'm a little bit surprised that he's still hitting for a solid average, given that you mentioned he's got 10 strikeouts and no walks, and that's the main issue with him is his aggressiveness and his plate discipline. But yeah, I mean, he's hitting the ball. And that's the thing. I always sort of think of Avisail Garcia in the same breath as Azokar. I mean, they're completely different players, but they both have that natural bat to ball skill that actually almost gets them in trouble because they can put the bat on anything, so they end up getting some weak contact. And that we might not see that from Azokar until he gets up to Double-A, I guess. I thought we'd see it a little bit more in High A, but
A little bit like Jose Iglesias.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
just swinging at everything because he can hit it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but you end up, and you see, the hitters these days are fast moving to a place where they don't swing at it unless they can hit it for damage. And there's still a place for guys who can just slap the ball around the park, but it's not as valuable.
It does sound like he put on a little bit of weight, didn't he? He's got, maybe another 10, 15 pounds on him, looking a little thicker to some people at least. So it's nice to see like maybe a little bit more pop. It seemed like Derek Hill was starting to, show a little bit of signs of at least making a lot harder contact before he went down again. I kind of have those two linked in my mind, I suppose. And I guess if I'm going to pick somebody, I'm still going to hope Derek Hill comes back from Tommy John surgery and can get some work in this year and hopefully get back on track.
And Alzakar, by the way, he's had just over 1,200 at bats in the minor leagues, gentlemen. He's only walked. I think over under how many times he's walked total.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, so
I'll say 12.
47 times.
All right, that's better.
Yeah. So, Chris, I was gonna say if you weren't looking at it, I was gonna guess maybe closer to 75, but 47 just blew my mind that he only walked as many times or that few times. But it's good to see him off to a good start. And Alzakar is a guy who, if you look at right now, and I made a prediction to Hook Slide, who is the voice of the Turtle, does a blog, does a podcast, and thinks I'm a little crazy, but allow me to explain myself a little bit. And I wanted to explain this before we get into other questions.
He's hardly one to judge, I can tell you. But okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, my theory is that Christian Stewart and Mike Gerber are off to good starts in Erie right now. And so Victor Martinez is also a slow start right now and often injured and plagued with injuries. So my theory is that right now the Tigers do not have a lot of minor league depth at DH or just overall. So my theory is that if Gerber and Stewart continue to swing a hot bat, and I'll give credit where credit's due, by the way. Surprise Tigers. Tyler Collins continues to hit, so he continues to hit. He's doing well. Junior Martinez is coming back anytime soon. So you look at the Tigers possibly going down. If Victor Martinez goes down or somebody else, am I too crazy to think that Gerber and Stewart can make an appearance? If depending on where the Tigers are in the standings, if the Tigers, let's say, are in third place and 5 games under 500 in July, you don't think those two kids would get a call up? Honestly,
I don't think the Tigers would waste their service time unless they thought they needed them. Would probably be my answer. My best guess anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on how long the injury is. I mean, they would probably want another lefty bat if Vmart goes down, since he's basically, he and Collins and Avila. I mean, Vmart's the only legitimate lefty bat. So it might just be like if it's a 2-week thing or 10-day thing, then it might just be Moya again.
Ugh.
But But if it were the end of the season, like, V-Mart's done for the year, I could see him, if Stewart continues to hit well, I could see them reaching down and grabbing him and just hoping for the best. Gerber is also a possibility, although I would think they would want him to come up and actually also play the outfield.
Yeah.
I guess that's not really a big deal. I guess they would go with the guy who's hitting better. Stewart is the better offensive player. Gerber's a more well-rounded player. I worry about his strikeouts a little bit, but I think both of those guys are going to strike out a healthy amount.
Yeah, you can maybe see Stewart coming up, and until pitchers kind of get a beat on him, might have a little bit of success. For me, if Victor Martinez goes down for any length of time, I'm just going to swap in Miguel Cabrera, JD Martinez, and Nick Castellanos, and play Dixon Machado at third some. I'm going to play Tyler Collins at right, and just try to take advantage of maybe resting those guys and having a little better defense on the field, probably, rather than maybe you use Moya as some kind of a pinch hit bat. You could also use Avila that way, but I probably wouldn't even really bother replacing the DH at that point. I would just try to use it to improve the defense.
All right,
good call.
Or even possibly giving James Loney defensively, because Loney,
that's true.
Yeah, Loney.
Totally forgot about him.
Yeah. Loney defensively is a pretty good first baseman. I mean, he's not the offensive, singles machine he once was in Tampa, or even LA, but he's a guy defensively that could get the job done if the injuries came about it. But only reason why I was thinking about a theory like that is just because if the Tigers nosedive standing wise to the way they're trying to evaluate the situation, and again, there's this uncertainty with you see what happened, and I wanted to bring up the fact that you look at Ken Holland right now is going to be the new renews himself as the GM of the Red Wings, and the future of the Red Wings is set. But there's a certain, like I said, and I said this with Chris about a month ago on the podcast, there's a certain weirdness in the air right now with the Tigers that I cannot shake, and it's just like the sixth sense. I don't know what it is. I'm just going to say this throughout the year, and I could be just all wrong, but I just feel like there's this team is at this point where it's like they're going to contend, they're going to do well, the pieces will lie where they're made, but I don't know. It's just the way ownership has come out with the Wings and everything, and Chris has come out a little bit to support, but it's just been this kind of in the background. And maybe it's just me, maybe I see things a little weird, but I just feel like this down the line, gentlemen, this team is in a weird flux right now still, and we talked about the window closing, what have you, but I don't know, just long term, team is just in a weird spot, and so I'm just seeing that maybe they'll try out what they have down there and see what they have at some point if the Tigers are not where they are standing wise. That's where my theory comes from. It comes from that kind of logic, not because I just want to see the kids play, nothing like that. That's where my theory comes from.
Well, and if you end up trading Ian Kinsler, JD Martinez for really good prospects, which by the way seems like a lot tougher thing to do these days, at least the last year or two. If you've traded those guys out of here, maybe Stewart and Gerber aren't particularly, you're still going to like, I like Stewart particularly as a hitter, but maybe those guys don't look like quite so much as the whole of the future offensively. And, if you've picked up somebody else along the way, yeah, maybe you do, move them up a little bit faster just to see, if they can contribute a little bit. That's possible.
Am I crazy, Chris? You can tell me. That's fine.
What's that now?
You can tell me I'm weird for that theory.
No, I don't know. It's tough to say. It's so confusing to know what the direction of the team is right now, and basically it appears as though Al Avila has been sitting on his hands, but I really think he probably tried really hard this offseason to make some moves, and the market was just not there at all, and that's kind of a bummer. So they're going to, I think they want to make one last run. I think they were ready. They were ready to rebuild, to try to head off the crash, but nobody else was complying. So they're going to make one last run, and I think if things don't work out, they probably will find people more amenable to making trades at the deadline. But if not, then it's going to be sort of a weird. I could see the run ending with another season like last year, where they're contending but just not quite there, and then the pieces start to fall off.
All right, that makes I could see that happening too. More likely the case. All right, so we get in our Tigers mailbag here, and Chris, there's a couple more questions. You got one. There's a few questions we had online. We answered Paul's question, and we answered Robert's question. What was there? There was another question from Perry, wasn't there?
Yeah, Perry, my old Bad Hop Radio partner, he was just asking me how Fulmer's starts this year have looked compared to the end of last season, which I think was a good question because Fulmer pretty clearly tired down the stretch last year. And so I just, I know Perry likes the game score stat, so I just went and looked at those. And so far this year, Fulmer's game scores are 66, 58, and 51. And I was looking last year, he made 26 starts. 16 of them were game scores over 50. And of the 10 that weren't, 4 came in his first 4 starts, if you remember that, and 5 came in his final 7. So he's sort of in the middle right now. He's not... I don't think we'll ever see him pitch as well as he did in like that 7-start stretch where he gave up like 1 earned run or 2 earned runs.
Yeah.
But he's going out there and he's pounding the strike zone and he's doing what you kind of want him to do, really. I mean, he looks like a solid. Brandon said he didn't like to assign roles, but he looks like a really good number 3 starter or even a solid number 2 starter to me. And that's all you really want from him. I think if I could ask him to do one thing, I think I might like him to see him reincorporate the curveball that he supposedly had in the minors, because everything he throws is pretty hard. His slider's up at near 90 and his changeup's up in the high 80s too. I'd like to see him just have something, just a small change of velocity to keep guys honest. I don't know if that'll make a huge deal for him, but maybe not something he needs to work on right now, but it's something I'd like to see eventually.
Okay. Was there any other? I'm trying to think. Was there any other questions? Did you guys have any other questions?
My old coworker Mark Donkers asked.
Oh yeah, that's right.
This tongue in cheek. He said, "Is this 2015 all over again?" And then he said, "#fire Osmus."
It's Brandon with the best comment. That misspelling of the word.
Yeah. The Fiar Osmus, which has become legendary.
Yeah. So
the angry FIAR or FIAR Osmus. So.
I'm not entirely sure what he means by 2015 all over again, other than another crappy season where they sell. They started hot in 2015. I think we mentioned it earlier in the show, and they're off to a good start here. In 2015, Verlander was hurt, Cabrera was hurt, and Vmart was hurt. That's possible. That could happen again. I mean, they're older guys, and they had a bottom 5 relief staff, which is
they were brutal.
Probable. But the main difference is in 2015 they got 90 starts from Anibal Sanchez, Alfredo Simon, Shane Green, Kyle Lobstein, and Randy Wolf, and they combined for a 5.5 ERA and a 30-43 record, which they finished 13 games under 500. So there it was right there. So unless there's some sort of homer at the bat series of misfortunes to the pitching staff, I don't think we're going to see a repeat of 2015. These young arms are impressive, and I mean right now the guy I'm worried about the most is Zimmerman.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting a repeat of 2015.
Yeah, neither am I. And that that kind of goes again to what a weird position the Tigers are in, because Justin Verlander's more or less been the best pitcher in the American League for the past year and a half since he came back. You've got 3 starters, all of whom look at least roughly capable of being a mid-rotation starter. Norris and Fulmer maybe have the potential to be more than that. You're not going to. I really don't think you're going to have much success trading Justin Verlander or Miguel Cabrera, obviously with those contracts. Maybe Verlander, but I can't see anybody even taking on Miguel Cabrera's contract really at this point. So you're going to have those guys, and the question is, you have the basis for a pretty solid rotation, and are you what are you going to do with that? Are you going to? It's a weird position to be in, to think of this kind of classic tear down and rebuild when you have maybe 3 of the 10 best starters in the American League under 25. It's kind of hard to imagine rebuilding from that posture. So I continue to think this is going to be, if the things don't go well, it's more going to be kind of a rolling rebuild. They're going to trade some pieces. A lot of money is going to come off the books next year that'll get them under the luxury tax threshold pretty easily. They might even have enough to reinvest a little bit here or there, and they might do that, and they may just kind of be this fringe contender until this farm system either produces something with guys like Stewart, Burrows, Funkhauser, Manning, or it doesn't. And that, and if it doesn't, that's when, 2 or 3 more years down the road, that's when the real Phillies type, situation is going to come to pass. I still don't quite see that as being the Tigers' position right now. If Victor Martinez goes down for the year, I'm not actually that concerned about that. I won't even say it's a wash, but it's not a big problem. As long as Miguel Cabrera is pretty much Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander is pretty much Justin Verlander, this team's going to be hard to just be terrible. So
I would agree with that. Spot. No, I agree with that, especially because you look at right now in terms of what Philly waited way. I mean, they gave way too much money to Ryan Howard, who didn't even have the numbers to compare to Cabrera to even have that kind of war and that kind of contract, and he was just a guy who slugged for the fences, still struck out way too much. He was a prototypical classic slugger, and I to this day I don't think it was one of those things that Philadelphia didn't really think about the whole way through. But to end the thought, really, I think that, and look, I'm not even going to be a homer when I say this. I mean, if you look at the Indians' rotation of Carrasco, Kluber, and Salazar and Bauer, and Tomlin is coming back down to earth, and I've said this before. I said this earlier. I said, I think it was the first podcast, Tomlin was going to come back down to earth. And so far, 6 innings, 13 runs, and the guy was touch and feel last year. He's got an ERA over 17 right now. I mean, it's still early, but I think the Tigers, top to bottom, have the best rotation in the American League. I know that sounds weird to say that, but I really believe that. I mean, Boston's got a really good rotation as well, but I think the Tigers 1 through 4. I don't think Zimmerman's Zimmerman, but I think the Tigers 1 through 4 have. I wouldn't want to face that rotation. I mean, if the Tigers could really, if you look at any other rotation in the American League outside of Cleveland of Carrasco and Kluber, I mean Salazar is good. He's a good strikeout pitcher, but I don't know. Is that too much for me to say there? Say that let the Tigers have the best rotation in the American League?
No, that's not crazy, but I think it just has to be proven. I don't particularly disagree. My hopes this year have been, that this rotation is what I think it can be, and if they are, this team has a chance if those 4 of those 5 guys stay healthy. I'm not giving up on Jordan Zimmerman really at all yet. I mean, this is a guy who had some of the best command in the game up until a year and a half ago, and fought all kinds of injuries last year. If he's healthy, and it seems like he is, and the velocity is mostly back, I think he'll get it together and at least be, useful. I don't think he's going to be a problem child for us all year. It's just a question of whether or not they can keep that neck, from flaring up to the point where it's a big problem. And I'm not a physical therapist, so I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work or not.
What are you, Chris? In terms of the rotation,
I think they should definitely be top 5 in the AL, possibly top 3. I could see it working out to where the number 1. I think you mentioned the 2 big contenders there with the Red Sox and the Indians. Yeah, I mean, if things break right, you've got the ace at the top. You've got 3 good young mid-rotation arms, and you've got Zimmerman, who, as Brandon was saying, he's a proven veteran. He was a workhorse for a while too. If he can figure things out, then I mean that's going to be tough to contend with. The key with having a good rotation, and you've heard people say this before, is it helps stop losing streaks when you've got a guy who can go out there and shut somebody down for 7 innings. And that's key. It's key to not lose a bunch of games in a row. So,
yeah, we do have a pretty streaky offense as well. Yeah, you need the starters to win some games because this offense will get blanked or put up 1 run like they did today a few times. Yep.
Yeah, especially I guess a no-name guy like Monte, who he did not. Andres, sorry, Monte. Idris, Monte, Idris, whatever.
Daniel Monte.
Yeah, I was thinking of Daniel. Former little league starter from who was caught cheating. So By the way, my obscure tiger of the week is Nelson Simmons. Do you guys remember Nelson Simmons?
No.
I do not.
All right. Well, Nelson Simmons was a tiger who, if you were familiar with the movie Coming to America, had one of the first tigers that I remember, that I recall as a youngster, that had a perm. And he was part of the 84 Tigers. He had a cup of coffee, played 9 games, but played in 85 for the Tigers, and then he disappeared. Didn't play again until you saw him at the age of 24 with Baltimore. He was out of baseball by the age of 24. Was drafted by the Tigers in the second round of the 1981 draft. And Nelson Simmons was a guy who, just remember, I had his baseball card, and he had a Jerry curl that just shined.
He sounds like Barbaro Garbay's doppelganger.
Pretty much. If you Google search Nelson Simmons right now, a baseball card will come up, and it should come up with one of his patented curls. Yeah.
Oh, he's wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Got his hat on.
Yeah, but look at the hat, though. I mean, you still look at the hat. Look at that. Look at all that hair. Look at all that hair.
He's wearing it tall. That's a tall hat right there. Yeah.
Tall hat. But that perm stood out to me more than anything else. But anyways, that's my obscure tiger of the week. I don't know if you guys have any, but that's mine. So
I don't know anything about this guy particularly, except that he was a glove first shortstop in the 50s. But I just have to mention the name Coot Veal.
Nice.
Orville Inman Veal. I mean, that's not even a baseball name. I don't know what kind of name that is, but it's special. Truly special.
Make sure you send that to me on Twitter, because I have inbox me, so that way I can put it on the show notes. And Chris, what about yours?
All right.
I'm not terribly good at all this stuff. A lot of the obscure players I remember, everybody remembers, but there were actually a couple I was looking up today. Jeff Robinson.
Oh,
people remember him.
The former lefty from Baltimore.
Yeah, well, the Tigers traded him to Baltimore for Tettleton, I believe.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he's dead, unfortunately. But yeah,
that's the second.
He had a really good.
Wow, it's the second Tiger this week or in the last month you picked that was dead.
What? Chris Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other guy I was remembering was Rico Bronya.
Former.
I remember him for having his rookie card. He was the number 1 pick, I think.
Yeah, it was former number 1 pick. He was the first baseman of the future. He was the Tigers lost patience with him. And that's why Cecil Fielder was brought in, and he was traded. He was signed with the Phillies. He had some success with Philadelphia, from my understanding.
Yeah, and well, I'm looking at his stats, and with the Mets, he hit 20 home runs with the Mets, and then 3 times with the Phillies. But today is his 47th birthday. Happy birthday, Rico Bronya.
Happy birthday, Rico.
And then we had a guy I went to Spec Sour with, and now an announcer and a broadcaster in Nebraska, Eric McKay, Breaker Greatolo. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. Probably not. A Tiger who I don't remember at all, who pitched for 1 game, got lit up, and never appeared in the majors ever again. Venezuelan pitcher, was in 1999. He came up and also started up a conversation that Gus Johnson, yes, the Gus Johnson, announcer, broadcaster, called Tiger games. Did you guys know that? I didn't know. I have no idea. No recollection of that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, me neither. He wasn't Gus Johnson back then, I guess. But yeah, I don't know that either.
Yeah. So and we were talking about past sports, and if anybody remembers in the area, we did a past sports reference. So that was who's the drunk? That was oops. The guy that was a color commentary, Larry
Murphy?
No, Larry Sorensen. I think it was the old pass.
Oh, yeah, Larry Sorensen.
Yeah, Larry Murphy. They're both drunks.
I heard that's why he got booted off FSD, but whatever.
No. Quick fun story about Larry Murphy. I saw him at this place out in Troy, this Italian restaurant. This really hot, young, like 20 years younger girl at an Italian restaurant. He was red faced, and I'm like, Larry Murphy, just being a pimp. So
living the dream.
Yeah, living the dream apparently. But at any rate, yeah, we had some really good obscure Tigers today. So I think I'm going to keep that category. So if you have them, turn them in. I'm surprised Mark didn't have one because I'm sure Mark would have dropped a few. Mark, one of our favorite Twitter followers, who, yeah, so he would have dropped a few of them. But We're out of time. Thanks so much for listening to Tigers FC. Brandon, thank you so much for stopping in. This was fun. Hopefully have you on again. And next time I might hear some stuff about your band days, man. I mean, really, I want to hear if you were touring with the likes of Mudhoney and.
No, these are just sad like basement bands, playing cover songs and running around seeing shows. I had a lot of friends who were in pretty good bands, but I was not. I was not in those bands.
Oh,
so
man.
I might have some stories, but they wouldn't involve me being any good on a guitar. So.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say maybe you saw the Toad Wet Sprocket before they got big, or like Screaming Trees or something like that. I mean,
Screaming Trees would have been cool, but no.
Yeah, Screaming Trees. I seen them. The lead singer opened up with. He was touring with the Queens of Stone Age and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he just came out, lurked on stage, said a couple songs, and just lurked back out. So.
He was always kind of a lurker, yeah.
Yeah. So. But Brandon, thanks so much for coming on. It was really awesome. And what else was I gonna say?
Let me just say, I had a great time. It was awesome to talk to you guys. I'm big fans of both of you. So yeah, it was really fun to do this. Nice to have a little cross-site like action here.
Yeah, it was the first time this is the second we've had Ashley on from Bless You Boys. She was interesting, and what I like about Ashley is that she is sticking up for Sanchez no matter what. So I applaud her for that. She's sticking to it. So.
She's also the hardest working person at Bless You Boys, although most of it has nothing to do with Bless You Boys, but that girl writes up a storm. I can't believe how much she gets done in a day. The Army would put to shame.
She's got like 45 books.
Yeah, she does.
She's putting up more. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I just wanted to say, likewise, Brandon, I'm a big fan of your work and what you do. And you should throw out your Twitter account just in case people who are listening don't already follow you.
Oh, yeah, you can follow me at Fiscadoro74, Fiskadoro. That's named after a Dennis Johnson book, just if anybody wonders what the heck that word is. But yes, follow me out there, and I'll annoy you with political tweets occasionally, but almost always just baseball. You'll be fine.
Are you talking about Dennis Johnson, the former Boston point guard?
Nope, his doppelganger, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of a few years ago of Tree of Smoke.
Ah, okay, all right. I'm
the other famous Dennis Johnson.
All right. Well, I'll admit that I'm not necessarily naive to the political game. I'll explain that off air. But at any rate, we're out of time. Let's just say this. You and I shared a lot of same. Like, I saw your political views. You and I are on the same page, my friend. So we're good. So I just don't know when people say certain names. I'm just like, huh? I'm oblivious. But at any rate, we're out of time. Also, I wanted everybody to check out the finals for the SportsRadioDetroit.com favorite personality. Over 100,000 votes for the Final Four alone. Caused me a lot of there's a lot of drama. I found people trying to cheat using a cheating bot to vote, which was weird. No. That was strange.
Wow.
I had to reset the votes, so that was all set. So the final is Jackie Page and Lauren Ibla from the Detroit Pistons. So that will be going up tomorrow on the page. So vote, and the voting will go on for a week. So yeah, that was gentlemen, I didn't think in a million years that cheating bots would exist for a contest that really is just for fun. So yeah, but at any rate, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of Tigers SRD here on SportsRadioDetroit.com.